Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to our live today. We've got Loren Lockman, the famous water fasting. He has been water fasting, helping people water fast for nearly 30 years. He has his own water fasting center for 29 years. We're so excited to have him on here with us today. Let's get him on here right now. Thank you all that are watching. 1 second. Loren. What's up? What's up, Pete from Palm Beach? Hello, Loren.
Hello there. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Awesome. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming on here live with us
Um,
today.
my
Yeah,
pleasure.
it's been amazing to hear all these awesome stories and success stories from all around the world about your water fasting retreats and just taking people. If you guys don't know, he has been taking people through water fasting since 1996. Is that right?
That's
And you
right.
and you have your own water fasting retreat. Where is your water fasting retreat at?
I don't anymore.
Oh, you don't anymore. Okay.
I ran the world's largest fasting center until February 2025. It's now closed, and I now work with people remotely, as you know.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, my
As
pleasure.
Yeah, as you know, we've been going through this Lent season, interviewing lots of people and just sharing the good word about how and we abstain. For most people, they've been abstaining from animal products. If they're already vegan, they're maybe going raw. If they're already raw, maybe they're trying water fasting or juice fasting. And we thought, what better way to bring on like the master water faster here onto
Uh,
our channel. So I would love to
Thank you.
hear about how you got started. How did this health journey for you begin?
Sure. Well, it's probably a common story. I mean, I'm sure you've heard some similar things before. I got very sick, about 6 months out of school. I got very sick. I was 23,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked with doctors for 3 years because all I grew up on the East Coast, outside of Washington D.C. All I really knew was conventional medicine, and so for 3 years I worked with three different doctors. I got
Mm-hmm.
sicker all the time. Finally, after 3 years, I woke up one day and thought, these guys don't have any clue what they're talking about. Toxic medications are never going to make me healthier. And that was it. I decided I'm done with medicine. I walked away. I've literally never gone back, with the exception of trauma medicine. So I used to be a bit of an adrenaline junkie. What time is it? That hasn't been true for 15 or 20 minutes now. Um, but I used to engage in lots of crazy activities, and I would sometimes get injured. And so
Okay.
I've severed arteries on 3 occasions. If you sever
Wow.
an artery, fasting is not going to be your best way to deal with that. Um,
It's not going to magically put your arm back together.
you probably want to have that sewn back together. So trauma medicine is amazing, and it's kept me alive on multiple occasions, probably 5 occasions, in nearly 65 years. But I have never been to a doctor now in 39 years. It took me 6 months to figure out what I needed to do after medicine failed me. And, I didn't intend to become a health coach, and I certainly didn't intend to supervise fasts.
Mm.
What happened was the change in me was so dramatic that people would come up to me and say, "Oh my God, you look amazing.
Mm.
What did you do? Can you help me, or can you help my kid or my partner, or my whatever?" And so I think everybody wants to help, and I started helping other people. After a few years, I thought spending most of my time helping people, coaching people without getting paid isn't a very good way to pay the bills. I
Right.
was I was neglecting the primary business that was supposed to be paying the bills, and it wasn't doing very well because I was neglecting it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was in the commercial real estate business, so I closed my real estate company to become a full-time health coach.
Wow.
And a few years later, 30 years ago in March, I looked around. Initially I began fasting nearly 40 years ago myself, and I didn't know there were places you could go. Back then, there were actually more places. There were about 4 or 5 in the US alone. They're all gone now except for one. There's a couple new ones. Honestly, these places don't have much experience. They're places I wouldn't want to spend any time. And in fact, I looked around and thought, I would never want to spend a month in these places. They felt like
Hmm.
hospitals.
Yeah, yeah,
They,
yeah.
they were they were disconnected from nature. You know, I had 37 acres in Costa Rica. It was
Wow.
spectacularly beautiful. Many people said the most beautiful place they'd ever seen.
Mm.
And we know that being connected to the energy of nature is really powerful. You know, it does a lot for us. In fact, I mean, in
Yeah.
studies, someone in a hospital room that can see a tree through a window heals
Mm.
15% faster than someone who can't see a tree from their window. Just being able to see the tree. Now,
Yeah.
imagine if instead of that, you're actually surrounded by the energy of nature. And you know, living in Hawaii, that
Hmm.
we had windows and doors, but nothing was ever really closed. Everything was completely open to
Yeah.
nature. My primary living area was really a covered patio. It was a giant space,
Yeah.
but it was open on 2 sides to the garden.
Mm.
And so, you know, the connection you get under those circumstances is amazing. And what happened for people was incredible. And so, as you said, it's been 30 years, it's been more than 30 years now. I've been working with people this way. I've
Oh,
guided more than 12,000 people through fasts, averaging 26 days.
wow.
And what happens is medicine would call it miracles, well, the
Hmm.
kinds of things we see happening. And I think it really brings people back to the understanding that our amazing bodies are intended to feel and function incredibly well, like to
Hmm.
function at a level of health and vitality that most people have never actually experienced. Many people don't even know it's possible.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And tell me, like, how did you decide to water fast though? So you were sick. You said you were
Yeah.
really sick. You were done with doctors. So then did you find water fasting, or how did you actually heal yourself?
Well, yeah. I mean, I went through a process, a mental process. Medicine had failed me. I didn't know what else to do. The first thing that I thought was maybe I should go back to nutrition, and I say back to because in my 14th year, I grew 10 inches without gaining a pound. I literally look like a stick with the nose. And, you know, hormones are kicking in. I'm wanting the girls to find me attractive, and I look like a stick with the nose. And so I thought, maybe if I study nutrition and begin working out, maybe I can build some muscle mass. That got me interested in nutrition and human health and potential. And
Mhm.
so now, between then and getting sick, I'd been through high school where my attention had become a little bit diverted from the study of nutrition to the study of marijuana and alcohol consumption. Um, eating garbage,
Yeah, yeah.
trying to get laid, frankly. I went on to college. I wasn't really focused on these things. So when I got sick again and I realized medicine wasn't helping me, I thought maybe I need to go back to nutrition. I
Mm,
did. And what I found out was I was doing everything conventional nutrition said I should do, and I was sicker than anybody I knew. And that's
wow.
when I thought, okay, you know what? I don't think conventional nutrition works.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, okay, well, there must be a natural diet, right?
Mm,
There's I can tell you today there's between 25 and 30 million animal species, including
mhm.
insects. Many of those are insects. And every single species has one species specific natural diet, right? You know it's very common. It's
Yep.
popular for people to say, well, that works for you, but it's different for everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
if that were true, we'd be the only species on the planet that were true for. It's pretty unlikely. I'm clear. I'm clear now. I know a lot of people have said I tried that fruit diet that didn't work for me. No one
Hmm.
has said that after fasting with me for 21 days or more. Because when we get the
Mm,
body clean and hydrated, we're going to feel amazing eating the
yeah,
one diet that our bodies are actually meant for. So, but
yeah.
I started off looking for what was natural for my body. Ultimately, that led me to a raw vegan diet. I've lived on a fruit based diet now for 34 and a half years.
Wow.
Um, but, and again, not a single day sick in 39 years now. So, I think it's fair to say that I
Getting
figured
there.
I figured out something that works, right?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. But while I'm trying to figure all this out and looking at other species, I noticed, oh, in fact, I grew up with a dog and a cat and saw both of them refuse to eat at various periods of their life when they were sick enough. And what I started realizing was that every species on the planet instinctively stops eating when sick enough or badly enough injured. You and I
Yeah.
lost our appetite when we were sick. Now, I don't know about you. I grew up with a stereotypical Jewish mother, right? You got to eat more, more food. Um, and
You're
of
gonna
course,
starve yourself.
exactly.
Yeah.
Our bodies knew exactly what they needed. What they needed was a break, right? The reason that every animal instinctively fasts is because processing food, even the best food, even the highest quality organic mangoes and papayas and pineapples and watermelons you've got there in Hawaii,
Yeah.
that requires a lot of work for the body to process that through. And when the body needs to cleanse or heal, regenerate tissue, whatever it is, these restorative processes take a lot of energy. And
Yeah.
so we instinctively lose our appetite. Now the problem is that most of us have lost touch with our natural instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we've been trained that we have to eat. I mean, people argue with me every day on social media. No, you have to eat to heal. No, you definitely don't. And it absolutely slows down the process of healing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we don't really need to worry about nutrients when healing. What we need to worry about is energy. And the key is
Mm-hmm.
to liberate the body's energy as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so that's how I came to fasting. Ultimately, I came across a book called Rational Fasting by Professor Arnold Ehret.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. I
he
know
talked
that
about
book.
he talked about people going weeks without food. And, it seemed a little crazy to me, Sarah, but at the same time, it made some sense. And again, as I said, I grew up Jewish, but only on my parents' side,
Mm-hmm.
not religious at all. But I'd fasted every year, one day for Yom Kippur.
Mm.
And so I knew I could survive one day. He was talking about weeks without food, and I didn't really know if that was possible. But I had done one day over and over again. I decided I would try 2 days, and I parked myself close to the refrigerator just in case. I'm thinking, what's tickling my back of my head? Is this plant right here? Um, what is that? So I did 2 days, and then I did 4 days, and then I did 8 days and 12 days, and I worked myself up to doing 21 days and more at a time. And amazing things happened for me.
Mm.
And
What kind of
again,
things happened?
I mean, I went from being exhausted all the time. I had so I was eventually diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, systemic candida, chronic sinusitis, and 57 allergies.
Whoa. Whoa.
And so I became allergic to almost everything: dust, pollen, mold, fruits and vegetables, you name it. And
Mm-hmm.
so what happened was I stopped reacting to things around me. I started
Mm.
having, I stopped having bowel issues. I began feeling energetic again. I mean, I went from being an energetic kid in college, riding my bicycle everywhere, until a few years later, I literally, I was the youngest officer of the second largest commercial real estate company in Washington, D.C. And I bought a house 10 minutes from the office so I could wake up at 8:30 in the morning and be at my desk at 9 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and then be back in bed by 6 o'clock in the evening because I
Wow.
was exhausted for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so, I started to regain energy. I mean, I started to feel human again. And again, I mean, I didn't intend to do this, as I said before. People could see the dramatic shift in me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what led me to becoming a health coach and fasting supervisor.
Wow, wow, what an incredible story and such an inspiration to let people know that there's other ways than just conventional medicine and that if we let our body just be, it will heal, and you are
Yeah,
the walking example plus thousands of other people that are doing it too. And
absolutely.
and I know you're talking a lot about the physicality, but how about that emotional and spiritual side of what fasting does for you. Did you have any really big, huge realizations? Did you have like, a moment with God, what people would say when you were fasting? How was that for you?
Yeah. To be honest, I can't say I ever had a moment with God while I was fasting. It didn't occur then for me. And even emotionally, I didn't realize what was happening. But there are two, I can remember two very, what were powerful moments for me that came not while I was fasting, but after fasting. When
Mm-hmm.
I realized there were huge shifts for me. Again, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I like to say I experimented with substances. I tried
Mm-hmm.
marijuana maybe 3 or 4 thousand times. Um, I, you know, I used all kinds of other things, and it was my way of escaping. I grew up in a household. My mother was really tough. I wasn't particularly happy. I moved out of my mother's house at 16. But
Okay.
I remember after I began fasting and things, my health had changed. I was able once again to be physically active. And I'd hiked up to the top of a mountain with my cousin. And I remember standing there thinking, this is the biggest high I've ever had. There was nothing in my system except maybe some oranges, right? But I felt incredibly connected to everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for me, that's what spirituality is. It's the realization on a cellular level that you and I and the ant over there and the plants,
Mm-hmm.
we're all connected. That's what
Mm-hmm.
spirituality is. We're all from the same cloth. Jesus said, each of you is exactly as I am. And
Yeah.
interestingly, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Muhammad all
Yeah.
said almost the same words to their followers.
Yeah.
So, the idea that all of the more enlightened people have always known is that we're all the same, we're all connected, it's one energy.
Yeah.
And so I had that experience only after I began detoxifying and healing my body in a significant way that enabled me to go from being unable to do anything to being able to hike up the top of the mountain. At the
Wow.
same time, I remember I always felt kind of isolated. I always felt different. And I think a lot of people experience this. I mean, I realize it wasn't just me. It's
Mm-hmm.
not an unusual thing. Um, this is why I think when we're teenagers and we're so desperately feeling like outsiders, most kids are just trying to do whatever they need to do to feel accepted by everybody else. And that's why kids do such stupid things, right? I mean, I think this era has passed. I don't remember how long ago this was, 20 years ago now, when everyone was walking around with their crotch of their jeans down by their knees.
Yep.
And I remember looking at that going, okay, that looks incredibly stupid. And it looks like it'd be really hard to walk that way.
Right. Right.
Like it looks pretty, why are you doing that? And in fact, I remember being on a bus in the UK, and there was a young woman. I was there. I actually did a couple of college courses in the UK, and so I think I was in my junior senior year of school, and I'm on this bus in London, and there's a woman with bright pink or bright green hair, and I said to her, "I'm just curious, why you do that?" She said, "Well, it's a form of protest." Or I remember up hearing other people like doing the same things. Well, I'm expressing my individuality. I'm like, yeah, you are just like everybody else, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the truth is it's about trying to fit into a group. And I realized something important, and that was, first of all, we are unique. Again, we're all connected, and yet each of us is an individual, unique expression. You're doing amazing things with what you're doing to get the word out there about the good news about eating properly and fasting and so forth. There's nobody else on the planet that could do exactly what you're doing the way you're doing it. Okay, there's nobody else on the planet that could do the work that I've done exactly
Mm-hmm.
as I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
Each of us is going to be able to touch people in ways that nobody else could. And this is true for every single person here. If you're watching this now or if you're listening later on, it doesn't matter. Each of us is capable of things that nobody else is. Each of us has genius in some area. Some people's genius might be that they're the best sleeper in the world. They can sleep better than anybody else. Other people have more advanced forms of genius, but each of us has genius in some way. And yet I still, I knew that, and I got that part about being individual, but I still felt disconnected. I would go to, I love swing dancing, and
Mm.
there was a place not far from where I lived at the time that had, I don't remember now if they were every, I think they were every month. It was like a monthly swing dance. And I would go there and I loved dancing, but I would often go home. I was single at the time, and I would go home feeling, okay, didn't really connect with anybody. Like I might have had fun dancing, but I didn't really feel any connection.
Mhm.
And once things began to change for me, wherever I went, it didn't matter where I was, I would connect with a bunch of people. I mean,
Mm.
and I think what shifted was I began to focus, and it wasn't so much, I mean, I got this consciously, but it sort of became my de facto operating system. Was I realized that no matter who I'm talking to, no matter who it is, no matter, I've been in 75 countries, I've had the chance to give lectures and seminars all over the world, and it's been an amazing gift for
Yeah.
me, and I hope for the people that were there to receive as well. But what I found is that it doesn't matter where I am, it doesn't matter who they are, what color they are, what their religion is. None of that stuff matters. We all have much more in common than we have different. And
Mhm.
so it became easy for me to connect with people. And
Mm.
again, I mean, this happened for me only after I began to detoxify my own body. And I think, when we do that, we begin to vibrate in sync with nature, and
Mm.
we begin to actually be able to see the beautiful parts of everybody we encounter. And
Aw.
so, yeah, I mean, it was a really powerful experience for me.
That's amazing. And I love that you're saying that because, in fact, Jesus, Buddha, monks, priests all over the world, they go to nature to fast. Why do you think they go to nature to just fast,
Yeah,
And it's like because you become who you truly are, right? It's like
right.
all of a sudden your true essence, exactly what you're talking about everyone has their own unique gifts, and how they share it with the world is so beautiful and perfect for them, and that's
Absolutely.
exactly what fasting can do, is what you're talking about, is going into nature to actually really tap into that true essence of their heart.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The only thing I would say, Sarah, about what you just said is that you said everybody has these unique gifts and can express them, or does express them. I would say that they're able to, they could do it. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people go through life constantly worried about what other people are going to think of them, constantly worried about how they appear, and is that okay? Should I do this? And I realized, I think it was actually Eleanor Roosevelt who
Mm.
first said, "What other people think of me is none of my business.
Mm. Mm.
Your job is to go out there and be the very best version of you possible. Just you, and no one else can do that job.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any difference what anybody else thinks. Okay,
Mm.
I mean, the bigger your splash is, the more you're out there, the more people you're going to piss off. There are going to be
So
some people
true.
that there are going to be some people that are going to attack you. I mean, there's trolls
Yep.
out there. It doesn't matter. It
Yep.
doesn't matter what you say or
Yep.
what you do. The more visible you are, the more you're going to attract those people too, and that's okay. That's
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
I think the easiest, the best. Let me say this: the best way of interacting with those people is to try to remember that they're in pain, because when people say stupid things, it's only because they're hurting and they don't know how else to interact with anyone,
Yeah.
right? They're afraid to be vulnerable and to actually reach out in an honest way, because they might get rejected again, right?
Right.
Because they've
Right.
probably been rejected many times before.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, so it's interesting because people come to me almost exclusively because they've got physical issues they're trying to deal with. Now, sometimes they come with depression or anxiety or something like that, but usually it's because they've got cancer, they've got heart disease or hypertension or arthritis or diabetes or bowel problems, digestive issues or chronic fatigue, whatever, Lyme disease. It doesn't matter. It could be anything. And it's important, by the way, to point out that it doesn't really matter what the issue is. The thing I think that most people fail to understand. I mean, I see this literally. I just saw this. Someone had tagged me on something on Facebook, and I looked at it, and someone had asked, "What fruit can I eat to heal this issue?" And the fruit doesn't heal the body. Um, I mean, and that I know that's going to sound, a lot of people are going to be screaming at me, right? What are you talking about? Of course it does. No, diet doesn't heal you. Juices don't heal you. Smoothies don't heal you. Supplements don't heal you. Medications definitely don't heal you. Healing is a biological process. Only the body, only the organism can heal the organism. Okay, nothing else. Now, the better the diet is, the better the opportunity the body has to be able to heal, because the less of an impediment we're creating for the body. Okay. But you have to understand, nothing heals the body except the body. Fasting is simply done properly. It's simply the best way to get out of the body's way, and so that it's able to cleanse and heal as efficiently and as effectively as possible. But it has there's no special magic. It's just that we're just letting our amazing organisms do the work that they're intended and able to do. Right? That's all it is. And so people come to me almost exclusively for these physical things. I'm kind of, I mean, and this was easier at Tanglewood, where we actually had created an environment for them. There were sort of ways of being in the center that we would ask people to follow. There was a meditation 4 or 5 nights a week, candlelight. And what became clear to me was that I was kind of, I mean, for me, clearly the most important thing is the spiritual component, because it's ultimately about becoming who we are. And who are we? Well, we are part of that uh, divine creative energy of the universe. Call it whatever you want to call it. That's what we are. That's literally what we are. Okay. And the thing is, I mean, as I'm sure you well know, we are manifesting all the time. The problem for most people is they don't know they're doing it, and they're manifesting what they're focused on, which isn't what they want. It's what they don't want. So when we become conscious of this, we can literally create miracles in our own lives and all around us. And so for me, it was kind of like smuggling the spirituality, because that wasn't why people were there, but I wanted everyone to leave with as much of that shift as possible.
Yeah. And you saw that happen probably all the time. They were healing probably
Well,
emotional wounds from years before that was actually creating those obstructions. We talk about all the time about parasites and those obstructions that are actually inhibiting, causing anger and causing sadness and causing all these different things that are happening within us that's causing harm to ourselves, right? And then
right.
you start fasting, or you start, going on a better diet, and then you start seeing them come out. Is that something that you see a lot with your patients, or the people that you're not your patients, but the people you're working with,
Yeah,
the eradication of parasites as well?
it is. We definitely see parasites leaving the body. Um, it's oftentimes we'll often see them in stool. There are times where we don't see them, but people leave without having any of the symptoms that they had of the parasite infestation. And coming back to the earlier piece, yeah, I mean, I'd love to say everybody leaves, everybody completes this process with an emotional, spiritual shift. The truth is, it only happens for those people who are willing to go there. In order to experience that growth, you have to be willing to simply feel your emotions.
Yeah.
And most of us have spent our entire lives, at least subconsciously, doing everything possible to prevent ourselves from feeling those emotions. And there are people who keep that up throughout the entire process. There are people who stay busy the whole time. Let me ask you a question. Did you grow up with dogs or cats yourself?
Oh yeah, I grew up on a farm in Nebraska.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
You're the one. I
we
heard
had a
someone
couple
who does.
dogs. I had lots of cats around for sure.
Okay. So did you ever experience a dog getting so sick it refused to eat?
Oh yeah, all the time.
What did it do?
Oh, it would just go in the corner and it would just lay there and just it would whimper sometimes. It would have little shouts here and there, but it wouldn't
I,
eat.
I do that. I do that
Yeah,
sometimes.
you do that. You go to the corner and whimper.
I whimper. I sometimes have to whimper. Yeah. Um, but the point is that the dog laid down in one spot. It might change position every once in a while,
Yeah.
but but it doesn't read or listen to music or watch videos or go onto Instagram.
Yeah.
It just rests as completely as possible. Every species does. And
Yeah.
so I'd be constantly encouraging everyone. I'm doing it now. I have several group calls each day where I'm working with people
Mhm.
remotely, and I'm encouraging them to do little. I have one guy every day is like, "Well, can I just hike over there and back?" I'm like, "No, you can. Excuse me. You can, of course, but it's not a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
So
goal,
someone
of course, goal is to conserve as much energy as you can, so your body can use that energy to cleanse and heal."
Yeah, someone just said, well, animals don't have to pay bills though. So what do us humans do? That's a good question. What do people do that have that working lifestyle where they got to make money? How can they just take off time to just fast, you know?
That's a really good question. I wish I had a simple answer for you.
Right.
Um, what I can tell you, when people say to me, "I can't do that," my response will usually be something like, "I think what you're saying is it's not important enough to you right now."
Mm-hmm,
Because,
mm-hmm.
because I mean, you can disagree, but my experience has been that when someone really wants something, they find a way to make it happen. There's an old saying: when we have a strong enough why, we figure out how.
Yeah,
So it's difficult. I mean, I have people sometimes who don't have the time off. They take unpaid leave. They take their medical leave. They get next year's vacation in advance. I mean, and well, I don't want to use my vacation. Okay, that's fine. I have a guy right fasting with me right now who has a brain tumor, and he had medical treatment. This is typical, by the way, with cancer. You get the conventional treatment, and the tumor goes away. Whether they excise it, they cut it out, or they use radiation or chemotherapy, the tumor may go away. But you've actually done. Not only have you not positively addressed the causes of cancer, you've negatively addressed them. Cancer, I believe, is caused by toxicity and poor immune function, and you've made the body more toxic and reduced the body's immune function. And so
mm-hmm.
what happens in 3 to 5 years is it comes back even more powerful, worse than it was before. And his came back. And so he's
Mm,
fasting with me, and he said to me today, "Well, this was an important day for Christians, so I went to church." And I said, "I think Jesus wants you to heal, and probably wants you to stay in bed, because walking 3 blocks to church and back isn't going to help you heal. It's going to take energy from you.
right.
So I think Jesus won't mind if you miss this year's whatever Wednesday, Thursday
Yeah,
is."
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It's, I mean, we have to really be clear about that. So, I mean, the questions are good questions. And I see here, Gymnasiums is asking, how do you do this without getting fired? Some people quit their jobs because their health is the most important thing to them.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had so far that I know of, I've had 2 people sell their house because that was the only way they could see, and they wanted their health back, and they got their health back. I've had several people sell a car. Some people borrow money. I mean, some people quit their jobs, they get their health back, and then they go find a job again. I can't tell
Yeah.
you what you need to do or what's best for you,
Yeah.
but I know that I basically gave up my career at one point because I wanted my health back, and
Mm-hmm.
I gave it up. I produced very, very little because I was focused on getting my health back. And then when I got my health back, I was able to go back out there and actually be much more productive, do much more than I could have done had I not healed my body.
Right, right.
But this is something everyone's going to have to come to terms with themselves. There's no easy answer. I wish I could say to you, well, just do this.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's a renewal. So I always tell people it's like it's not just this one time thing and then you go back to normal. Like once you do this, your life is new. You know, you see things differently. The life is showing you other perspectives that you never thought even existed before, and
That's
opportunities are opening for you, you know? So it's like you think you're going to be the same person that you were prior to
yeah,
fasting is not going to
yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Listen, priorities change in a big way. I told you I was in commercial real estate. My plan was, this is what happened for a lot of people I work with. My plan was to retire at 35 with a whole pile of money because people made a lot of money in that field. And before I turned 30, I decided I was going to be a full time health coach. And I ran Tanglewood for 29 years without ever taking a salary. My focus shifted from being about money to being about helping people. And I mean, it's nice to be able to pay the bills, and I understand everyone has bills. You're going to have to figure that piece out. But
Right.
I've had people say to me. I remember once speaking at a co-op in Brooklyn, and I mean, it's funny because I'm literally in the upstairs in the meeting space with 50 or 60 people. When downstairs, right below, there's all this organic produce, and
Hmm.
someone said, I said to them, you should be eating only organic produce. What if you can't afford it? I said, well, you might want to revisit your priorities. I mean, can you live in a less expensive place? Can maybe you should drive a less
Yes.
expensive car? How much
Yes.
money are you spending on Starbucks um, or on Netflix? I mean, where are your priorities? I'm completely clear. My top priority is taking care of the physical organism, the whole organism, physical, mental,
Yeah.
spiritual, all
Yeah.
of it. But
Yeah.
and I mean, and I get it because this is I think a trap for people who are on a conscious spiritual path, as I have been for a long time. They'll say, yeah, but we're not our bodies. Fair enough, we're not.
Yes.
But I'll
Yes.
tell you, I was a cadet at the U.S. Air Force Academy a few years ago, in 1979 to 1981. And they told us when we first got there, we weren't allowed to ride on motorcycles because the government had so much invested in us. Well, you know, you don't tell an 18-year-old kid, boy especially, and I can't speak for girls, you don't tell an 18-year-old boy what not to do. The
Right.
first the first time we were able to get the weekend free, my best friend and I went to Denver and bought a couple motorcycles. Okay, and that summer we drove them across the country, and it
Wow.
was an older bike, and I had issues, and I had to keep stopping to dump oil in the crankcase and deal with issues like that. Fast forward many years, I still have a big BMW motorcycle in Germany, where my girlfriend lives, and I've
Hmm.
done 3 lecture tours across Europe by motorcycle,
Wow.
and they were amazing because the BMW motorcycle is one of the finest machines ever made.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so completely trouble free. The way I think about this is the body that I'm using for this physical journey. When the
Hmm.
body is working perfectly, the journey is a lot more pleasant. Okay. I
Amen.
mean, again, 39 years without a day sick. I've spent zero money on doctors, zero money on medicines. I take no supplements. I take no medications. I spent zero money on doctor's visits. I quit. I gave up my health insurance almost 40 years ago.
Wow.
And again, what's the value of that? I've missed 0 days of work. There have
Yeah.
been no times when I couldn't do what I wanted to do. In the meantime, I've got 6 siblings. There are 4 of us in our 60s. I think the oldest might now be 70. The others at that age, my younger sisters had both their knees replaced. My older siblings have things they can't do anymore.
Mm.
Not me.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
It's what a blessing. What a blessing. And I love that you're talking about like using your BMW, your Mercedes, like using this vehicle to be the healthiest you can be, and it's and for those people that are more spiritual, like this is your temple, right? This is where
exactly,
you house your spirit, and like
exactly.
why are we not treating this temple with such love and care that we would
Yeah,
want to do for anyone else out there? Like you would want your children to be healthy, to be happy inside and out, but why wouldn't the real question is why do we not want to do that for ourselves? And why don't
yeah,
you feel like that worthiness of having that in this life?
exactly,
These are
exactly.
big questions, so
Well, I think unfortunately that some of the answers are rather sad. There are people actually who don't believe they deserve to feel well.
yeah.
Somewhere in their subconscious.
Yep.
right? Their own, unfortunately, they often grew up being told that they weren't worth very much, and they believe it.
Yep. Yep.
And it's,
We're
it's a tragic thing.